Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's Beyond the Tech podcast. On this episode of Beyond the Tech, we're honored to host Mr. Reza Behfar, a visionary technologist and a strategic leader with a rich tapestry of experience spanning continents and industries. As the chairman, founder, and business development director of Camros Tech, Reza has been instrumental in steering the companies toward delivering innovative AI-driven solutions, specializing in software development, advanced data analytics, and system architecture. His commitment to ethical and impactful technology is further exemplified through his active involvement with Conduit Oslo, a think tank dedicated to interdisciplinary collaboration and designing better futures. With a career that seamlessly blends the technical expertise and visionary thinking, Reza continues to push the boundaries of what's impossible in the tech and landscape. In this conversation, we'll delve into his journey, explore the synergies between his venture, and discuss the future of AI and its role in shaping inclusiveness and sustainable innovation. Welcome to the show, Mr. Reza Behfar.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks. Reza, what drew you to AI and technology, and how has your view of field changed over the time?
Like my journey into this particular technology in AI, it really wasn't planned. It was shaped by interest more than anything. And partially necessity, of course. But my educational background is in economics, so I've always had to deal with data. Data and numbers are the cornerstone of that particular discipline. So once you have dealt with data and it kind of forms the foundation of what you do, then you are not so much out of touch with data analytics and what AI is doing, which is really based on data. But what I've discovered in my experience was that, I've worked for many years in the energy sector, particularly oil and gas in emerging markets. And when you are talking cross-culture to different groups of people with different backgrounds, data is the common denominator for dialogue and communication. When I was working overseas in the energy sector, I was involved in many different technologies that were within the sphere of oil and gas. And the core solution was about automation, data and automation. So, and in my work experience in these emerging markets, I also came across some exceptionally talented individuals that I learned a lot from, and they were the ones that guided me more towards artificial intelligence and what it can do, its power. And it was through those exchanges that I really became fascinated more and more so with AI technology. And actually, that was the time that I also developed the notion of Camros, which was, what if I could bring some of these individuals into a team from across different cultures, different countries where they were working, bring them into a team and bring the whole team into Norway, and to set up a technical hub here. So that's how the notion, the idea of Camros was conceived, really, when I was there. So my perspective obviously has changed a lot with what AI can do, but I've always been involved with technology in one way or another.
That's very interesting. And you mentioned that you have picked that moment of thinking about creating Camros. But what other, maybe you can share that some other pivotal moments in your experience that have significantly influenced your approach to technology and innovation. What other things have been?
When I've been working, again, I go back to these emerging markets, because when I started to work within the oil and gas sector, this is the very early 2000s, and Norway was developing very fast and was a leader, actually, even at that time. in the subsea and offshore sector in some of the disciplines. And where I was working in these markets, we were trying to introduce these technologies there. And I saw firsthand what these innovative solutions can do in terms of productivity and safety. Like the number of accidents that were happening prior to the introduction of some of these technologies was horrendous. So I think probably the most pivotal moments in my experience was to see how technology can enhance safety and impact society and individuals' lives in these markets.
It's very interesting because one of the reasons I started my podcast is to how to use technology and AI to impact the future public safety, which in my heart is school shooting. We will talk about that a little bit later, but that's a very interesting moment that you shared. Thank you for sharing that. Well, being a founder, I know it's a very challenging thing because you always have to balance between technical and strategic decisions, and you can be operational in some sense. So maybe you can especially a little bit dive into that, how you have balanced these areas together.
It's been different throughout my career based on where I was and which kind of teams I was working with and who the clients were, essentially who the stakeholders were. But if I'm going to talk about today, because we have a diverse kind of team in place, so I think the most critical element in this is that you start with listening. I've always tried, not always succeeded, but have always tried to surround myself with technically brilliant people, and then act as a translator between the team, their technical capabilities, and the objectives, the goals that we have. So there is a business outcome that the clients expect and the company expect, and you have the team that is to deliver that. And somewhere you're sitting in between all of these things, and you have to translate in essence. So my role is often to keep the strategic lens clear, for the team to understand why are we doing this, who's benefiting, what kind of impact are we leaving behind, or what kind of impact we're delivering rather, and enabling the team, the technical team, to focus on their capabilities, but also to enable dialogue. And in that dialogue, especially for myself, but also for anybody that is having a leading role, to have enough humility that understand that we are all learning all the time. So I have to ensure that the team members also feel enriched. And I think they feel enriched once they know what kind of impact they're having.
Absolutely. And I think it's both challenging and rewarding in a sense. Well, I know that as a chairman and director of Camros, you should have a vision. And I know that you're a visionary leader. So my question is that, what is your overarching vision for the company, and how does AI play a central role in achieving it?
Our vision is to be a leading enabler, if I can use that word, of advanced analytics and AI, especially for SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses in the Nordics, or Scandinavia or Nordics. AI plays a central role in how businesses can transform themselves, make decisions, engage with customers, and what have you. We have targeted SMBs because we feel that they are kind of overlooked by many vendors and service providers. And in this age of AI, where transformation is critical for survival, not only for growth, but for survival, SMBs, if they are left behind, they will be at a great disadvantage, and they won't be able to survive. So our vision is to enable those level of companies to be able to survive and grow in this age of AI and the fast digital transformation that is happening everywhere in the society. So in that sense, we don't see ourselves only as a tech provider, but as a partner for in our clients' growth. In parallel, obviously, we also want to keep in pace with all the technological kind of advancement that is happening, particularly in our continent of Europe, because AI is a strategic tool that will determine our security, our growth, our prosperity, or our happiness. So we want to be part of that development.
Indeed, and that's a very nice vision. Camros Tech recently partnered with Data Impacts to enhance digital transformation initiatives. Can you elaborate on the objectives of this partnership and the value it brings to the clients across Europe?
The technology is moving fast, and one of the aspects that needs to be addressed is the security. With advancement of AI, the security risks are increasing, data security breach and what have you. Data Impact is quite strong at this. We are quite strong at data architecture and other aspects of data analytics. Whilst we do cover security, we felt that we need a partner that has both expertise in security and also enterprise IT systems. And they have that. And together, we then would be able to provide end-to-end data analytics solutions. This strategic partnership has actually proved to be very good. We are really complementing each other. And since its inception, since we actually signed this agreement, we've been working very closely together, almost as one company. So it's been very fruitful, very good. Now we feel confident. Both parties feel more confident about gaps that they felt they have in their totality, the end-to-end cycle of the solution that we wanted to provide.
And that's very interesting. Wish you good luck on that. When I was researching about you, one of your recent projects involved a smart market, an AI-powered location intelligence tool, which I think is a fascinating thing. How does this solution integrate the data to aid business in strategic decision making?
Okay, it's actually Smart Market is like a powerful location intelligence platform. So at its core, it combines multiple layers of data. So from demographic, population density, mobility patterns, what else, lifestyle segmentation, footfalls, point of interest, and all of these within geographical catchment areas, including also infrastructure details. They provide a full kind of data-driven picture of any particular location. So let's say that you're a retail chain or a restaurant chain, coffee shop chain, and you have 2 or 3 locations as options that you want to open a new branch. So what this system basically does, it shows you who lives in that area, how many people there are, their age groups, I don't know, income level, spending habits, lifestyle preferences, all. It's a wide scope of data about the particular market that you're trying to serve. And it will show you how people will move, where they come from, foot traffic, everything. And also your competitors. And it takes all of those into consideration. It does analytics, and then it tells you which location would be the ideal location for your business to expand to. It not only does that, but it provides you with predictive analytics. So based on integrating your own historical data from CRM, financial data, sales data, into the system, it can predict which of these locations would have the best kind of revenue, what kind of revenue you can expect, basically help you in all your budgeting and forecasting activities. So it's there are solutions. We are not unique in this, but this one is quite strong. Until now, what we have done in terms of comparing it, I think it stands well on its own to serve the market.
And that's quite interesting. I think your customers will really enjoy it when they start seeing the predictive analytics.
Particularly that part, I agree.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that Camros Tech faces in implementing AI solutions for your customer, particularly concerning data privacy and ethical consideration?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, GDPR here in Europe, you really have to be aware, and of course you have to be compliant. So it basically shapes, because you have your sources of data from different sources, and also where it is stored. So it really shapes the solution that you are providing. So I cannot say, like, these are some of the challenges that we have. Europe is quite regulated in terms of data security, and now with the AI Act. Not complaining about it, but it has its own constraints. You have to really take into consideration all the impacts that it has at the time when you are at the time of the concept shaping of the solution. So, at the drawing board, you need to ensure that everything that you're doing will comply with GDPR. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it within AI, like the other solution that we have, which is a conversational AI called Eva, to make sure that the AI is fair and doesn't carry any biases. Because these systems, the AI system, they learn from real world data. And unfortunately, real world data can sometimes have inequalities, assumptions, biases. So, for example, Eva, that is a customer support AI, if it receives a call, and if the AI is trained on a narrow group of users, it might misunderstand or misprioritize people from different age groups, or people with different accents or cultures, because it's reflecting worldwide data that is being trained. So this was a bit of an extreme example, but it's just very, very important that we make sure that the system that is designed there is no bias whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have to make sure that if a decision is made by a system, the customer, like for example, the smart market that you mentioned, like, we also have to be transparent towards the client and make sure that the client understands why they are being suggested to open in that particular location. So transparency is also a key reason. We have to show that it's based on this data, based on this evaluation, so that there's a clear understanding. And I think once you have that, and once you can build trust, a little bit of those challenges are addressed. At the end of the day, one of the biggest challenges, especially towards SMBs that we've had, is they are skeptical towards AI. They know that they need it, but they don't particularly trust it. So to build that trust is critical, not only for us to engage the client, but for the client to actually use it even once they have procured it. And that's a big challenge that we see towards SMBs. Larger businesses, they have strong internal IT systems, they have visions, objectives. SMBs usually lack that. So you're dealing with people that understand that in their competitive environment, they need to do this, but at the same time, they're not technically savvy enough to understand the different aspects of it. So there's a lack of trust. And that has been one of the biggest challenges that we've had towards SMBs.
And that's a very valid point. And speaking about responsible AI and this big challenge that you just mentioned, I'm thinking about the competitiveness in the market, that how do you really ensure the responsible AI and transparency while you keep the competitiveness in the market for SMBs? Because as you said, like big corporates, they all have like compliance team to work with things, but for small businesses, it's not the case. So how do you ensure the responsible AI and keep the balance in a competitive market?
Well, it's very challenging. I think we have to provide, what we have seen is that we have to provide quite a bit of content before we actually start a project. There is a bit of educational process. For them, we start usually by showing them, once we have understood their business, once we've understood their requirements, we work on a high-level architecture. And once that is done, we ensure that they understand what is happening, what is going in, what is coming out. And that can take some workshops and some sessions, whereas probably with a larger organization where they have an IT team, you really go very fast onto the project. So we have that initial phase where we have to engage them, and then once they understand what is happening, then they begin to trust you. But commercially or financially, the reward is when they start to grow and when they start. So for us, it's very important that they succeed, because as they're succeeding, we're growing with them. So that is how we view that particular market and SMBs.
And that's kind of challenging, but at least a good start. Let's shift the topic. You're actively involved with Conduit Oslo. For our listeners unfamiliar with it, could you describe the mission of Conduit and how it implements your work at Camros Tech?
Yeah.
Or how it complements your work at Camros Tech, better say.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked me about Conduit Oslo. It's a networking space, but for me, it's more than networking. It's a place where meaningful conversations really takes place about a variety of topics and subjects. So it's not only about technology. Conduit Oslo is built on the idea of interdisciplinary collaboration and dialogue. So it brings people from different sectors, different fields. Like, for example, it could be a data scientist, it could be policymaker, policy influencer, I don't know, business leaders, investors, arts. And instead of keeping them in silos, it kind of brings them together within that space, and it encourages cross-cutting dialogue. So it basically examines different things that are happening at policy level. Like as an example, I think about a week, 10 days ago, there was a talk about AI governance and what kind of impact it could have on AI startups in Norway. And although it was about, for example, 10, 12 people there talking, there were investors, there were people that were involved with policy, there were startups. So it was quite an interesting dialogue where in this where we are today and the direction that EU is taking and Norway is following, how can you remain innovative but at the same time compliant? So we heard from different stakeholders, investors, there were startups, there were people from consultancy companies, and it was a dialogue. For me, it was quite eye-opening because you hear from different perspectives. And that's what Conduit Oslo is about. So it's about creating that kind of environment for productive discussions and dialogue. It's a valuable space for exchange and insight, if I can put it. Yeah.
It's a very interesting place and network to be part of. Is there any other conduit around the world when you say Conduit Oslo?
Yeah, there's a conduit in London, but there are similar bodies, obviously, different places. But Conduit Oslo, as much as I understand, is slightly different the way that it is handling these activities than the one that is in London.
One of the reasons I started, as I mentioned, this podcast was that I have, together with my couple of other Harvard colleagues and myself, we are doing like prototyping to use AI to reduce the school shooting, and that's probably a right place to talk about politicians. Of course, we are doing this in US. But speaking of that, what do you think about using AI for public safety? What is your personal view on that?
Yeah, it's a fine balance, isn't it, between surveillance and safety security. If you go in one of those directions, not considering the other aspect of it, so our civil rights, our privacy rights versus surveillance, it could be dangerous, because in totalitarian kind of systems, you may actually have very low levels of crime, but then at the same time you have very low levels of prosperity and growth and even happiness. I'm North Korea. They probably, I don't have statistics of crime rates, but I'm sure it's not very high. It's a society where it is being monitored and controlled. So it's a balance between that. But this notion of school shooting, I guess with AI, if you could, for example, monitor the purchase and distribution of firearms and its vicinity to a particular school and things, I think probably very positive. But then school shootings is not so big everywhere else but United States, right? I mean, it has happened other countries, but in US it is. So if it can be done without too much surveillance, I mean, or without really stepping into privacy rights and civil rights, I'm all for it. I don't think you can ever eradicate crime totally.
That's for sure, but at least we can strive to minimize it. And just for the record, there is an average of 80 instances of a school shooting in the United States every year, at least for the last year. 80. Wow. Average. Yeah, that has been a year more than that. So it's beyond of what we are thinking.
Yeah. I wouldn't have even imagined. If you had asked me to guess a number, I would have said maybe 4 or 5, which is still a lot. I would have, but 80, that is.
The first year, my colleagues and I, we were studying this school shooting instances. It was so insane, crazy. We didn't even believe what was happening. We studied all the data from 1960s up to last year, and it's incredible what has happened there. Great. Okay, let's shift the topic. I have a couple of more questions left. With the rapid advancement in AI, what do you perceive as the most pressing ethical or societal challenges that need addressing?
I think that AI should serve everyone. Like, for example, if you look at internet usage globally, you will find spots, areas in the world that the usage is very, very low, whereas you have AI rapidly developing elsewhere. So that is going to create a huge gap. And obviously, then it will be the most powerful, the most developed countries that would advance much faster, even much faster than it has been the past couple of decades. So that gap is going to widen. And it's difficult to envisage what that would mean, but it's certainly the direction. So I think in terms of an ethical kind of point of view, that is the most important in my mind. That if we can make sure that it serves everyone, just the most powerful countries, companies, or individuals.
Yeah.
Surveillance is the other one that just mentioned, and also digital divide. We have digital divide even in the developed countries. You know, AI is affecting society where older generations are falling behind. They don't know how to use it. They don't understand what is happening. They feel that they have no control over what is happening, which can in itself create a lot of mental health issues. You have less privileged parts of our own cities here in Europe, people that have less access to opportunities, to education, so they will be left behind. So these are some of the most ethical questions I think that we need to address really. So we have to build, and that's why with all the constraints that this EU AI Act is bringing, I feel that it's the right thing to do. That we are introducing governance with certain principles in it. That from a humane perspective is quite important. You cannot have a happy life in an unhappy society where there is a widening gap between the most powerful and the least powerful, even in your own city, even in Norway. So I think these are the most important ethical questions within AI.
Totally. And I think, as you mentioned, building trust in society, because if AI is going to be our not future, but also like current society and in future, so then we need to build trust. And that's the main thing to have responsible AI.
Exactly.
So, and that brings me actually to one of my favorite questions here, because you mentioned that you want to have AI for all. And one of my favorite questions in this show is that if you're given unlimited resources and freedom, what AI-driven project or initiative would you pursue to make a significant impact?
If I had the resources and the time and the freedom, I would want to work on solutions that helps people to transition into new roles, especially those that are left behind by this digital shift that we are seeing. As I mentioned, this could be older workers, people with limited access to new opportunities, even small business owners. One of the drivers that why we are targeting SMBs. And I think such solutions, they don't have to be complex, but in fact, they should be the opposite of complex, but very well designed, easy to use, and grounded in real needs. Now, this definition of real needs, what that would be in 5 or 10 years' time, I don't know, but I'm sure there will be real needs. So if I had time, that's where I would want to focus time and resources and the freedom, as you said.
I like your answer, I think. You go ahead and tell, and then I say why.
No, I think that's it. I think, there's a lot of energy in AI that is focused on big kind of high-end use cases. And we tend to forget or ignore some of the most meaningful impacts that it can have. So like in your case, with the school shootings. So I think the more human-centered, the more simple, the better it would be for the society in general. We are at a place where we just want to innovate and develop as fast as possible and roll out as fast as possible without really thinking about the impacts that it's going to have.
The reason I say I like your answer is that because you see actually beyond the tech, because it's not all about tech and AI, but seeing the actual problem and the real problems that you mentioned. And that's why it resonated to me very much. And last but not least, what is beyond the tech to you? What do you see as opportunity beyond the tech?
Beyond the tech, probably it means impact on people, purpose of the technology that you are kind of working on. So technology really is a tool, isn't it? We have to remember that it is a tool and that its worth as a tool is really measured by how it changes lives, how it improves systems, how it provides more security, how it expands human potential. That's the angle I think I would look at it. So that it is a tool and it has a worth. And then we have to give meaning to that worth. And to me, it is how it can impact in a positive way lives, improve systems, expand our potential, and improve society in general for the majority, not for a minority.
And that's very valuable. Well, what I enjoyed in this important conversation most is that it's not only strategic and technical expertise that you have, but you also have an eye for human being, which I really appreciate. And that's actually the center of everything. And thank you, Mr. Behfar. I really appreciated this time that you put here and enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure that our listeners do as well. I wish you all the best in
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Behfar.